Ford CEO Jim Farley just sold out to China, and this is going to make a lot of Ford loyalists ditch the iconic American brand.
Ford says its EVs are proudly American-made, as the automaker's CEO now faces backlash for owning a Chinese-made electric model, and openly praising it.
I drive the Xiaomi. We flew one from Shanghai to Chicago, and I've been driving it for 6 months now, and I don't want to give it up.
Over the past few years, Jim Farley has been shoving electric vehicles down our throats, and after a recent visit to China, it seems like this is just going to get even worse. Farley's push to electrify everything at Ford is more than likely going to put them out of business, and the proof is laid out for all of us to see.
Ford says it lost $3 billion before taxes over the past 2 years, and it expects to lose billions more this year.
In just the last few years, Farley killed the iconic Mustang brand by giving the name to the Mach-E SUV. They released their first electric truck that has so far been a huge sales flop, and now he's been spotted driving around in a Chinese EV as his daily driver for several months. Ford has completely sold out to Chinese EV manufacturers, and in this video I want to show you how this EV push and Farley's obsession with China will completely destroy the iconic American brand, and even put Ford out of business for good.
In May of 2021, Ford revealed its F-150 Lightning that was in the works, calling it the truck of the future. In April of 2022, Ford released the all-electric F-150 Lightning, its first ever all-electric truck. They made huge claims on the tow capacity and how this was going to be a game changer for the electric truck market. Despite Ford's enthusiastic outlook, the sales of the Ford Lightning didn't go nearly as well as they had hoped or they had advertised. Yes, you can tow with an F-150 Lightning, but odds are, if you're towing and depending on how much weight you're towing, you may not be going as far as you think. In fact, most people who test the towing distance only get about 100 miles before the battery is totally dead. So just be prepared for the battery not to last as long as you were hoping. And when you are on your trip, you're gonna need to plan for more frequent stops. Despite all the hype on this truck, the Ford Lightning sales have actually been pretty low. They even had to cut back production by a huge number. Ford had originally planned on selling up to 150,000 of the Lightnings annually, but in 2023 alone, they only sold 24,000 of these. So Ford cut the production back to only 1,600 trucks a week, which is roughly half of what they had originally planned. Their Mustang Mach-E didn't fare much better. First off, guys, just my own personal opinion, I don't think they should have used the iconic American Mustang name when putting together an electric car.
This is where the journey starts to become difficult. How close to Mustang should it be? Do we put a pony on it?
Are messing with the crown jewels. Consumers from one of our research clinics was saying, are you guys crazy?
I think the electric Mach-E should have been standing alone on its own. Plus, they made it a crossover SUV, which is just kind of weird. The Mach-E was first introduced in 2019 and finally hit the market in December of 2020 as a 2021 model. Ford had high hopes for this little SUV, and maybe that's why they named it after the Mustang. But this too didn't sell like they had hoped. I personally think the concept of this is really great, but they really do need a better marketing strategy for these. And they need to have them stand alone on their own, not with another type of vehicle that they've already had. The Mach-E also had a whole lot of issues, which did help with the decline in sales. They have charging issues where the high voltage battery main contact points have overheated. This causes the Mach-E to completely lose power and to just simply not charge at all. I think the worst issue, however, is the braking system. Some owners have reported premature pad and rotor wear, vibration and squeaking when the brakes are applied, and by far the worst, complete brake failure. Where do I sign up for that? Their sales, just like the Lightning, have also been on the decline. I feel like the EV market just isn't what Ford was hoping it was gonna be, and I just think they've been pushing so hard on the EVs that they lost sight of what their customers truly like: horsepower.
This is a Ford Mustang Mach-E. And while, granted, it is a good-looking car, other than the looks, I hate almost everything about it. So I'm here at the Ford dealership in Rockwall, Texas, and last time I was here, all of this center section back here was entirely empty. They only had a row of vehicles along this edge, on the other side over there, and that edge over there, but this entire center section was completely empty. So it looks like they do have a lot more inventory, but the inventory that I want to show you specifically for this video is right here and right here. They have a row of Mustang Mach-E's, which is the electrified version of like I'd call it a crossover coupe or whatever. And then of course they have a bunch of Lightnings. And this is the most F-150 Lightnings that I have seen at any dealership. It looks like they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one white one way down there at the end, and another Mustang Mach-E right over here. Now we've gone over all the reasons why sales are slow on the Mach-E, why sales are slow on the Lightning. But while I'm standing here in front of these cars, I want to give you my personal reasons why I don't like where some of this electrification is headed, and specifically with the Mustang Mach-E. One, you shouldn't have to force change on people, and what they're doing with these electric cars is they're completely forcing this change. They're trying to force you to buy these cars when now that the early adopters who bought all the Teslas and some of these other Mach-E's and F-150 Lightnings, like all the early adopters bought those vehicles, and a lot of them, especially the Ford Lightning, decided that they hated them and they were terrible trucks and they were practically useless other than commuting. And with the Mach-E back here, I don't like that they took the Mustang badge and used it as a nameplate to try to sell their electric vehicles. It's a good looking car on its own, and they could have sold it as just a Mach-E. They didn't have to ruin the heritage of the Mustang pony car to try and sell an EV and shove it down your throat. And as you can see here, they have 4 and 5 just kind of sitting here. And what I looked at is the average sticker price of these. Let me show you. This one's around $47. The others didn't have a sticker in the window. They were just sitting on the floorboard, so I can't tell how much the other ones are. But $47,000 gets you in what looks like a mid-range Ford electric vehicle. But when it comes to these Ford Lightnings, it takes a crap ton more money to get into one of these. And that's a lot of the reasons why the sales are slow. This one right here is $79,000 MSRP. And as I walked down this row, I already walked down this row, every single one of these Lightnings behind me were all $79,000. So you have an entire lineup of $80,000 Ford F-150 Lightnings that they sold you on the promise that you can use this for towing, you can use this for the job site. But when it came down to it, when the YouTubers and other people started testing it, that was really not the case. It's a terrible vehicle and a huge failure on the part of Ford. And it's another reason why this EV push is really frustrating consumers.
The EV push isn't just killing Ford. It seems EVs are on the decline despite their rapid growth in 2020 and 2021. Just the first quarter sales have dropped roughly 7.1% in the US. I know what you're thinking, that doesn't sound like a huge decline, but in the car world it really is. Just imagine losing 7.1% of your income. At that point, that puts it in a completely different perspective, and it's a lot bigger than it seems. The idea behind the EV boom, I get it. However, the reality of owning an EV isn't what they made it out to be. You don't just have to purchase the vehicle, you also have to have the money to hire somebody to come install the power plug and the electrical and wiring that you need in order to charge this vehicle at your house. Because our homes don't come with the right plugs for a vehicle like this. With everything costing more, including the TP you choose to wipe with, it's really hard to put aside money to go, yeah, I'm gonna go get an electric vehicle that's gonna run up my electric bill because I'm using more electricity to charge it, and I have to go buy a charger. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here with a brand new vehicle I bought that's a paperweight in my driveway. This isn't just a Ford issue. Sales have even dropped at Tesla.
Tesla this week reported disappointing sales in the first 3 months of 2024.
They saw a sales volume decline of 6.3% with their second quarter. A lot of people have found the mileage limitations are a huge issue. You can't drive far, and traveling's even harder. Here in Texas, most things aren't exactly close unless you live in a big city, which a lot of people don't. They live in the rural areas, and it's just not realistic for everyone. So the slump in sales and the decline in the EV market really is understandable. So unless these auto manufacturers find a way to lower the cost and increase the range, I really don't see the EV market taking off all that much anytime soon. In my opinion, it's probably just going to keep declining unless they do find a way to give people more bang for their buck. Now, just because Jim Farley is selling out to Chinese EV companies doesn't necessarily mean doom and gloom for Ford. So don't worry, y'all. You don't have to be forced into buying an EV, at least not anytime soon. Thank God. Or even being forced to buy the Mustang Mach-E just to keep a Mustang, because according to CEO Jim Farley, Ford is going to keep the V8 Mustang, which is better than EV you could ever put out on the market. No, it's not electric, but man, that horsepower and the sound that that Mustang makes. honest, you can never make an EV make me feel that way when you crank that motor and you put that pedal down and the roar of the engine. No EV can make any car enthusiast feel the excitement and just the rush you get from having a car that actually has horsepower. The Ford Mustang has been the longest produced Ford car nameplate since its introduction in 1964, and currently it's in its 7th generation. The Mustang was so popular that in August of 2018, Ford produced the 10 millionth Mustang, and as of today, they have sold even more. My brother had a GT350, and let me tell you, that car was a beast, likely one of my favorite sports cars. I believe Ford will keep dominating the sports car market as long as they keep making the V8 Mustang. Ford CEO Jim Farley said that he is committed to continue making the Ford V8 Mustang regardless of what any other manufacturers do. I believe this move by Farley is what's going to keep Ford on the top of the list. Farley even went on to say that he would keep making the V8 Mustang until it was literally made illegal and he had no other choice. It all really makes sense because Farley himself had his first Mustang at the age of 16.
I'll just show one picture, kind of summarize maybe who I am. It's a picture of me when I was 16. Since then, all I've really worked on and thought about is cars.
Farley went on to say in an interview that he's been in love with the Ford Mustang ever since he had that one. Jim Farley back in January said that we have EcoBoost, we have the Dark Horse now, and we're going to continue to invest. And if we're the only one on this planet making a V8 affordable sports car for everyone in the world, well, so be it. Those words lead me to believe that Farley is not going to give up on the V8 Mustang, not without a fight. And I really can't blame him. I hope he keeps fighting because I myself love the V8 Mustang. Despite this push to save the V8, it still seems like Farley is pushing Ford into a direction that most American consumers just don't want. And Farley's recent trip to China is proof of that.
For a company like Ford, this is something we have been watching for a while, but I've had 2 trips to China in the last 2 years that were literally epiphanies.
He's been over there cozying up to Chinese EV companies and has even gone as far as to sell out to them. Ford CEO Jim Farley says that Western car companies can't even touch the advancements that the Chinese car industry has come up with. Between their technological innovations and just technical advancements, Jim Farley says we're experiencing an existential threat by these companies. In his recent trip to China, he came back with just more of a state of worry about what that means for the American car industry. And he's really concerned about the push on the EV here in America, or kind of lack thereof. Farley noticed while he was there that Chinese industry is like light years ahead of any American manufacturing of the EV, and that includes Elon Musk.
There's also kind of a China thing here. They make 70% of all electric vehicles in the world.
They're even using AI technology in China on their EVs that we've never even seen here in the US. He even noted that a lot of the Chinese manufacturers are using companies that are low cost, so they're able to give these cars to their consumers for cheaper, which is undercutting the price. So more like Ford and Tesla, their higher price range, China's able to get their parts and the things that they need at a cheaper base price so they can pass that savings on to their customers. Shortly after his trip, Mr. Farley had a bunch of Chinese EVs sent over to Michigan for a lot of his corporate guys to drive around, touch, feel, and just see what they're about. All the models he brought in were displayed in a Ford conference center for all of the top executives to be able to look at. During board meeting coffee breaks, directors were able to go sit in them, touch them, feel them, and just see what they were about. Farley liked the Chinese EV so much. I mean, y'all, he fell in love with these that he actually bought one for himself, and he drives around a Chinese EV, not a Ford. He even said in an interview that he does not want to give up his Chinese EV.
I don't like talking about the competition so much, but I drive the Xiaomi. We flew one from Shanghai to Chicago, and I've been driving it for 6 months now, and I don't want to give it up.
Safe to say, it doesn't really look good on the company when your CEO doesn't even want to drive around in the EVs that you guys produce, especially when he's the one running the company. So what does it say about Farley's faith in their EV quality, especially if their own CEO would rather drive around in a Chinese-made EV? With the decline in EV sales and the current market, where does that leave the future of Ford? According to recent announcements from Ford, they don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. They decided to change their strategy strategy on the EVs, instead of focusing on like the sedans and cars for the everyday driver, they decided that they're going to switch over to focusing on cargo vans. Like you guys see Amazon, they're driving around in all these electric vans. So Ford is wanting to produce their own electric van and focus more on that and their electric trucks.
The Ford Motor Company announcing today it's taking a new approach to its electric vehicle future. Just 2 years ago, Ford announced plans to build an all-electric commercial vehicle.
So it seems that the guys at Ford really are paying attention to what's been going on, because they are making some changes that just make sense. They decided that they're not going to focus on making a larger electric SUV, which is what they were planning on doing after the Mach-E. They were going to go in and make a bigger SUV. You know, everybody drives around in all these huge SUVs, so it kind of made sense. But with the decline in what's going on and the lack of people really buying the EVs, they shifted gears and decided to hold off on doing any kind of a bigger SUV, which makes sense seeing as they can't even sell the smaller ones. So it seems like financially it was a really good decision on their part. Ford has finally decided to prioritize affordability and better platforms, which will enable them to get the cost of these down, pass on to the consumer to make it a little bit more affordable for a lot of other people in different income brackets to be able to afford to drive around in an EV. So hopefully the lower cost of these vehicles will entice more consumers to buy one and drive around in one. Though you still have to remember you have that high cost on that electrical outlet that you have to put into your home. But maybe if the government really wants these auto manufacturers to push EVs so hard, they should give some kind of allowance. You know, like they do for people who are adding solar panels to their house. Or maybe there is something in place like this, I just don't know about it yet. So if you know that there's something that they do to give you some kind of discount or incentive through the government to have an electric car and to be able to put one of these plugs in your house, so let me know if y'all know something that has to do with the cars and the EVs. Ford also stated that they're going to focus more on hybrid options too, so that way you're not just stuck with one form of fuel or electric. You can do either or, which will make the range a little bit further for anyone. And this will give consumers more options to something that doesn't just rely 100% on electric. Which, what does that mean for you? That means you're not stuck somewhere just because your battery runs dead. It's kind of like having the best of both worlds.
We want the next ones to be more affordable. What's hard about it is to bring the cost down.
Ford also decided to postpone the release of their new electric truck. They're going to focus a little bit more on battery technology first. This way they can hopefully have more range, quicker battery charge rates, and a lot less issues with their batteries and charging systems. This means they don't plan on releasing any new EV trucks until at least 2027. Ford CEO Jim Farley also just announced a partnership with Tesla. This is going to give Ford customers access to Tesla's supercharge system and drastically increases Ford's infrastructure for charging systems all over the country.
Now, Farley has embraced Tesla and CEO Elon Musk.
They're doing this by gaining access to Tesla's supercharge system, which consists of 12,000 chargers.
The partnership has gone well, and we have a professional relationship.
Have no fear though, if you already own a Ford EV, they're gonna send you the adapter at no charge. These adapters are just gonna hook onto the cord you already have, and then you're gonna be able to plug that right into that Tesla charger. It really seems that Ford is definitely headed in the right direction here, and they really are working on putting their customers first. If they keep working and innovating like they are right now, I really do believe that Ford has a really great future ahead. Just please, for the love of everything Ford, don't turn the Mustang completely electric. Dodge is already doing that with the Challenger, and it's gonna be a complete and total sales flop.